Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 732, Super Bowl 59 preview, and a quick Arsenal rant. Hello, Big Chillians. Welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joining us with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going pretty well. How are you?
Doing okay. I'm out in California here. Thankfully, no fires or anything, but it's been crappy weather, which I told my Uber driver yesterday I will not complain that it is raining and overcast because that is definitely needed out here. So I'm not going to bitch about me coming to visit California and having rain interrupt it.
It's kind of a complaint, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. I'm not complaining because I'm not doing anything anyway. So I'm just stuck in a hotel room.
I know I can't say this is bad, but this is annoying, huh?
Well, when you come from Arizona, it doesn't really make a difference. The people who are coming from like the East Coast where they're like, yeah, it's a blizzard right now. It's like, well, it's just rainy and overcast here. But actually, the last 2 days it was supposed to rain and it didn't. It was actually kind of nice. I got to walk out on the pier a little bit and, you know, almost went to see the whales, but didn't.
Good decision. If you want to see the whales, go to San Diego, hop on the America, and you might get a once-in-a-lifetime experience with a humpback whale, 1,000 dolphins, 1,000 seals, a bunch of birds, multiple schools of fish. You know, that's the way to experience it. But you know, you won't complain about the weather. But you know who would absolutely complain about the weather?
I don't.
Oh, no. They would be in that taxi and they would be telling the taxi driver how outrageous it is, how it's unfair, how they've come to California. Probably the fires were only started to try and spoil their trip. You know, that's exactly the type of thing that Arteta and his team would do. And I know that we've had, you know, friend of the podcast, Ollie, who wanted to set me up because during the Arsenal match in a group chat that I'm in with him and a couple, former co-host Sam and friend of the podcast, Jake.
I love Jake.
I was ranting a little bit and he wanted to make sure that I didn't waste my rants just in a group chat. And I'm raring to go, particularly on the back of tonight when Arsenal have followed up their whole try and show Man City who they are, try and make fun of Erling Haaland for 90 minutes, try and, you know, play whose dick is bigger than whose. And then they lose to Newcastle in the semifinals of the League Cup. And we're once again staring down the barrel of Arsenal winning fuck all in a season, but trying to pretend that they've done something.
Wow. I didn't know Arsenal were sponsored by Pornhub with the dick showing contest.
They wish.
New sponsor?
They wish. They'd be more likely to be sponsored by Grindr at the rate that they're going.
Well, that's an unfair shot to Sam.
Well, he's not here to defend himself on any fronts. But look, that wasn't a gay attack. That was more on the receiving end of poundings. That was more where I was going for the Grindr thing. I like having I quite like that City and Arsenal don't like each other. I think modern sports needs rivalries and they need people to dislike each other. And I love that both of those teams hate each other. So I'm all in favor of encouraging them to continue this feud. But Arsenal need to know why they're in the feud and they need to know what their strong points are. And them trying to play off. So over the course of that match, you had Arsenal players consistently pestering Erling Haaland. Gabriel was speaking to him throughout the match. When Arsenal were scoring goals, they were going at Haaland. You had Lewis Skelly, when he scored his goal, he did the meditating celebration. And also at the end of the match, when Arsenal won, they made a point of playing Humble by Kendrick Lamar. You can't prove when someone's literally, after the last match, told you to be humble, basically saying you're not winning anything. Stay humble until you win something. You're not proving him wrong by winning a fundamentally meaningless match.
And not being humble about it.
Exactly. You're just proving him right. And if you don't understand that, you're an idiot. So everything they did, if I'm Erling Haaland, I just went, you didn't take my advice, and you should have. Because, that was an embarrassing result for City. To lose 5-1 to Arsenal, to collapse in the way in which they did in the second half, to be staring down the barrel of realistically potentially not finishing in the top four. There's a lot of reasons why City should have walked away from that being embarrassed, but Arsenal makes such a point of being as unlikable as possible that even in the face of a result that should have felt changing of the guards, because Arsenal aren't going to win anything anyway, but certainly the end of the City era, I think that could have been an exclamation point for this is a rebuild that City are facing. Instead, you just walk away from it thinking, Arsenal are complete pricks.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. In a time where the criticism on them was you guys showboat about winning either useless matches or matches at the end of the day don't win you trophies. And then you go and beat kind of I mean, at this point, they're not in the title race anymore. So you're beating a team that's not, you're not achieving much by beating them other than getting 3 points on the table. But it's not like you're knocking them out and trying to jump them. You've already jumped them. So you're winning kind of a meaningless game, and you can't keep it like a business as usual win. It has to be more. It has to be something. Have to prove something.
No, you had to be pricks. And look, City are still a good side. It's a big win for Arsenal. It puts them definitively above City, probably for the remainder of this season. It sort of keeps any small hopes they have of mounting a title challenge alive, because whoever lost that was completely out of the race. But if you did win it, you at least can claim to be putting some pressure on Liverpool, although, you're still talking about an Arsenal side that are 6 points behind Liverpool, having played a match more. So you can either call that 9, 7, or 6, but it's a long way. It's a big gap.
I call it not happening. That's what I call it.
Yeah, it's a big gap with 12 matches to go, because you're either asking, even if you're talking about perfection from yourselves, they need, also with a vastly inferior goal difference, they need, Liverpool to slip up 2 to 3 times and Arsenal to be perfect/near perfect. Neither of those, Liverpool might slip up once or twice. Arsenal are not going to be, as we've seen from their performance tonight against Newcastle, Arsenal are not going to be perfect in the league for the remainder of the way, especially with Champions League matches to come, all other sorts of things to focus on. I'll even make friend of the podcast, Ollie, even happier.
Boy,
I think Chelsea have gone about, Chelsea are trying to build this, and I have perhaps jinxed Chelsea. Chelsea's season has slightly fallen apart.
You didn't perhaps. There's no perhaps there.
Chelsea season has...
Post-production, we got to edit that perhaps out.
Chelsea have fallen apart over the last 2 months from a league perspective. But, the messaging there from them, even when they were in the title race, was, we're not title challengers. We don't really think we're part of the title race. They don't respond to certain victories in a way. Do I think Palmer is going up to, is pulling the Erling Haaland celebration after a goal? No, I don't. And Chelsea have not exactly been the classiest team in the world over the last couple of decades. But this Arsenal team, I hate them with the core of my being at this point. And I know at times I claim to hate a lot of sports teams. Most of them I'm probably indifferent to, maybe have a slight dislike for. This Arsenal team, I might rather see Arsenal go down than Blackburn go up. If that's somehow, neither of those are possibilities. But if I could have either one of them happen, I might rather watch Arsenal supporters have to process relegation over the enjoy something myself. And as you know, I'm never one who says choose other sports fans' disappointment over your own pleasure. This might be the rare exception.
Now, is that just because Sam is an Arsenal supporter?
It has nothing to do with Sam. And Sam, actually, he's reasonably rational. When I have conversations with him, he kind of gets it. Like most Arsenal supporters, there is a certain degree of a lack of awareness/arrogance that they do have on certain topics. And he has a blind spot for his own team. That's okay. But it's not a Sam thing. It's not related to anyone I know. I have plenty of friends who are Arsenal supporters. I feel no differently about them than I do my friends who are Liverpool supporters or Manchester United supporters or Manchester City supporters. But it's the team. It's Arteta. I had a rant. I'll repeat some of what I argued and put forward in this group chat, so this will be repetitive for 2 of our listeners. But Arteta presents himself, when you look at Arteta, you would have thought this was Zinedine Zidane, who's then gone on to manage Real Madrid and won multiple Champions Leagues. He's won nothing as a manager so far, and his Premier League career, he was mostly a reasonably important part of a somewhat decent Everton side, a bit part player in an Everton side and an Arsenal side, never was capped for Spain. He played in Spain's the best period in the history of the Spanish side. He was no part of it. And okay, the defense of him was that was the toughest period in Spanish history to get into the team. You're right. But if you want to carry yourself with this level of arrogance, you weren't part of it. When Spain were really, really good, you were watching it on TV just like I was. That's how involved you were. But he stands on that touch line and he presents himself, they kind of compare him at times to Pep Guardiola. And the criticism of Pep would be, this is the biggest challenge that Pep has faced in his managerial career, and that he's going to have to go through a rebuild. He took control of a really good Barcelona side. He went to Bayern Munich when they were very good. He went to Man City when they were very good. There's not a huge amount of tests that he's had to face realistically so far, but he had a fairly great playing career as an integral part of a Barcelona side that were good. He's part of a good...
I was going to say, wasn't he captain of Barcelona, multiple La Liga championships?
No, yeah, but you can...
for the national team.
No. Oh, playing career-wise, he blows... Arteta dreams of being Guardiola as a player. I really mean this. Arteta was the 6th or 7th best player on an Everton side that finished, 6th in the Premier League. That's his claim to fame, is that, wow, Arteta, he was part of a surprisingly good Everton team. Congratulations. Robbie Savage was part of a surprisingly good Blackburn team, but he doesn't carry himself as if he was God's gift to football. Arteta seems to. And then that spills over into his players. And so you have all of them. I mean, it concerns me. The way that Lewis Skelly is playing is wonderful for England because he might be the solution to a left-back problem that England very much have. But I now think he's a prat. And so I don't know if I want him to be part of an England team because I've quite enjoyed supporting an England team that's likable. And now I face the possibility of having an absolute dickhead as part of that. And that's reminiscent of an England team in the early 2000s that I didn't enjoy watching that much, even though they were immensely talented. And there's a few outliers within this Arsenal squad. Saka, I think, seems like a genuinely good guy. He's also injured at the moment and not playing. Declan Rice, I think, is actually quite likable. He seems quite grounded. But, he's sort of doing the heavy lifting in a team that he often gets overlooked for just being a set-piece taker and a bit of a workhorse in midfield. But all of the key components outside of that, none of whom have really won anything over the course of their professional careers. I mean, genuinely, Erling Haaland could ask most of them who they are. It would be not an outrageous question. And just the arrogance with which they approach them.
I mean, it's telling. Pep won more in his first year as a manager than Arteta's won, trophy-wise, in his entire managerial career. In 1 year.
That might be the case for the remainder of Arteta's managerial career. And again, to have all of that arrogance on Sunday, great for you. 5-1 win against a mediocre City side. I mean mediocre by the context of, a top 4 team, the City that we've seen over the last decade. To follow that up, and I actually thought they were going to qualify today because I thought on the back of the 5-1 performance, they'd get an early goal against Newcastle. It would suddenly be 2-1 on aggregate. They could take some momentum, get it 2-all, kind of ride that wave and find themselves through in the final. And then, against Liverpool, they wouldn't be favorites in the final, but they'd at least give themselves a chance of winning the 3rd most important trophy in English football, which, a good season for Arsenal if they pulled that off.
It's the 3rd?
Well, yeah, because Premier League, FA Cup, League Cup, for sure.
What about Champions League?
No, but in English football.
I know, but if you were an English club, it's the 4th best one you'd want to win.
I would say 5th, because realistically, even the Europa League is more... I'd rather win the Europa League than the League Cup. I'd rather win the League Cup than the Conference League, but even that's maybe a push. It really doesn't matter to me at that stage which one of them you win. But to follow up all of that arrogance, they didn't just not go through against Newcastle tonight. Newcastle outplayed them. Newcastle won outright. Newcastle could have won by more. basically dominated the match. Arsenal created no chances to speak of, really. It's embarrassing. And how you don't have someone who sits down with them and goes, guys, look, we talked the big talk on Sunday. We didn't follow it up. We need to stop doing that until we're 15 points clear in the title race or until we've won the Champions League. And otherwise, we could shut up, keep our heads down, play good football, and we might win something and we might win some people over in the process. And just to follow this up, while you sit there in silence for a second.
Oh, I'm just letting you go.
Do you know who is doing that?
I told you.
Do you know who is doing that? Liverpool. Do you know who's just getting on with their jobs? Slot just staying. We're just going to keep going. City are a good side. Arsenal are a good side. Chelsea are a good side. We respect all of these teams. You know, he really talked United up before Liverpool's match against United a few weeks ago, where he said, well, on their day, this United team has a lot of talented players. They can cause any team trouble. We have a lot of respect for them. We think they're better than they've shown through recent results. There's a team that the messaging within the camp is, until we win it, we're keeping quiet. And then I think even after they win it, they'll probably mostly keep quiet. But it's about doing the job, not celebrating achievements along the way to completing the job. And Arsenal are all instant gratification. They're the Instagram of Premier League football. You know, it's, hey, look, I had a nice Saturday out. Let me take my picture in this bar and the pretty cocktail that I had and make life look perfect. And then you say, yeah, but you got fired on Monday. Where's that on Instagram? And that isn't appearing. And this is, you know, I hate them.
This is wonderful. Good to hear that your text ranting hasn't died down since the Chiefs AFC Championship win.
This time it was entirely sober, I will say. So there was a slight difference. There was no alcohol involved whatsoever. But it just, and I also want to go further because a lot of times people will accuse me, I bet on Arsenal to beat City on Sunday. So financially, I was motivated to have them win. I thought they would be the better team. I
would not win like that.
Win with a bit of class, you know? Just act like you've been there before.
Well, they haven't. That's the problem.
It's true. At least this generation of them.
Unfortunately, City will probably stock back up and rebuild, and they won't have the opportunity to beat them a second time.
This is why they need to be even more aware, because Chelsea are building something. Look, I know I got criticism for cursing Chelsea, but I still think Chelsea are fundamentally putting together quite a nice squad. And
oh boy, here comes relegation next year.
I think the future for Chelsea looks brighter than the future for Arsenal, where I think Arsenal still have some really big problems they have to address within their team. Now, they still need a goal scorer. They make no signs or indications that they will really ever properly address that. They'll pretend every once in a while that they're going to sign Ollie Watkins or whoever it is, but realistically, you know, they don't put their money where their mouth is from a transfer perspective. I mean, they'll spend £800 million to not win the Premier League. Arsenal fans will love to point out, we didn't do this, we didn't do that. It's like, yeah, because you bought 3 left backs, 4 right wingers. You know, you kept spending money in places you didn't need to spend it. That's not our fault as neutrals. You don't get credit for not spending money in the area you clearly needed to spend money. You know, having the most expensive set of wingers in the Premier League doesn't mean that we judge you less for having Gabriel Jesus as the City cast-off or Kai Havertz as the Chelsea cast-off that you're helping are going to fire you to the Premier League title through their goals, because they wouldn't have found their way to the Emirates if they'd shown any indication of being able to achieve that at either of their previous clubs. So, I mean, they're spending way more money than most clubs are doing. They're spending way more money than, say, Aston Villa. They're spending way more money than Nottingham Forest. And at the end of this season, they're going to basically finish on a par with them. And both of those clubs will have had infinitely better seasons, you know? And anyway, it's just frustrating to watch. But now at least, as someone who doesn't support a team in the Premier League, I at least have someone to root against, and it's almost better.
I actually have a little bit of a Premier League story myself. I'm at a conference right now, and there was an older gentleman who was walking around wearing a Crystal Palace scarf. Was that yesterday, right? Yeah. And off the heels of their 2-0 defeat for United. And so I went to him and I said, hey, I was nice little win you had there. And he said, yeah, you know, the problem is it just doesn't feel as good as it used to because United just aren't the powerhouse they once were. And I kind of said to him, I said, no, come on. It still has to feel, they're still United. And he's like, no, it's true. It's a good win. It's a good win. And he was very excited about what they're building in Crystal Palace. And we talked for probably about an hour about he's very well connected with the club. And he gave me a lot of nice insights. And he recommended a very good book, Eddie, that I think you'd like. Maybe you already have it. It's called Inverting the Pyramid. It's all about the history of formations in football and how it originally was like a 1-2-7, and now it's completely flipped.
Heard of the book? I haven't read it. At the same time, I think I'm done with sports books.
Done reading.
No, I read, but you know how I felt like I was done with sports documentaries?
Yeah.
I think the thing I suffered from with sports books is that for a long time,
people would get them and you'd never read them.
Well, just by default, people who didn't know what to give me would go, Eddie loves sports. I don't know what to give him for Christmas or his birthday. I also don't want to spend too much money. So a book is perfect, but I don't know what book to get him. I will just buy him.
Burqa.
Burqa's just perfect, yes.
It's a perfect gift.
I was part of the Islamic State for a while, but I've moved on. But it was one of the highlights. But so people just gave me sports books, and I would try and read them, but there's a lot that have gone unread. Certainly my bookshelf is probably filled with at least 20 sports books that I have never opened and never will. I'm sure they're all good books, but I think as a result of that experience, I've sort of given up on it. Will be another good 10 to 20 years before I decide there's a sports book out there worth reading.
Wow. It's quite the gap.
Got to let things build up in life sometimes.
What if one comes out on the arrogance of Arsenal?
And I probably would have written it, so I won't need to read it. That's available on Amazon right now, self-published. But yeah, no, it's, and I guess speaking before we obviously move on to our Super Bowl preview, which is the main focus of the episode, we can also say that, the Champions League draw place and, some difficult matchups for, you got City playing Real Madrid, which is an interesting one to look forward to. I don't know necessarily. We obviously don't have to go into too much detail about the individual matchups. I don't know if this expanded format delivered more exciting knockout stages than we previously had, because it kind of feels like the same business as usual, where there's a couple good matchups and most of them won't be that watchable.
I mean, the Brest PSG matchup doesn't super excite me.
I've always said
see that multiple times a year anyway.
I've always said, do you know what the Champions League is missing? French derbies. And by derbies, I don't mean actual rivalries. I just mean two French teams playing against each other. That's the thing that the Champions League has really been missing. And thankfully, this expanded format has delivered.
Yeah, I mean, there are just some that just I have no excitement for. Like Benfica, Monaco. Maybe I'm picking on the French domestic league right now, but that's a match you tell me, hey, we're going to go to the bar, Benfica, Monaco are on. I'm just I'm all right.
Benfica, Monaco falls into the unfortunate level of you could tell me that was any one of the 3 European Cup competitions.
Yeah.
Hey, Benfica, Monaco are playing this week, and you could tell me Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, and I would believe all of it. And so that's not a good sign for a Champions League knockout stage.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess at the end of the day, these shouldn't be the great matchups, because these should be the teams that are kind of fighting to move forward. So we shouldn't expect great matchups. I think, unfortunately, you have the matchup of City, Real Madrid, meaning that one of them is not going to move on when they probably should be moving on over some of these other clubs that will get in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yes, I would rather watch either of those sides in the next round than many of the sides that will make it.
So if anything, it's made it worse.
In some ways, yes. It's reduced some of the quality that we'll see in the next round.
I mean, we're not going to see Celtic in the next round.
But speaking of disappointing matchups, I guess we can transition to the Super Bowl.
Well, I think first, Eddie, we don't normally discuss the NBA,
Oh,
but I think it's
groundbreaking
worth
trade.
discussing quite possibly the craziest trade that's ever happened in the four major sports in the US.
Yeah, I think certainly in the modern era, let's go in the last 20 to 30 years. Yeah. So for those unaware, Luka Doncic being traded to the LA Lakers from the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for Anthony Davis and a host of other,
A first round pick, basically.
yeah, and a couple other players kind of moving who are not super relevant. I got home, so I was out on Saturday night, and when I got home, I flicked
Bill
open
Simmons podcast popped up on your phone and you said,
No,
why
it
is
was
Bill Simmons dropping a podcast on a Tuesday night?
No, it was a Saturday. It was before I just got home and opened the ESPN app because I was like having a drink of water as I got into the apartment and reading, just intending on just looking at some scores, what happened in this league, what happened here. And the big headline was the trade. And I thought it was, and me, like a lot of other people, thought it must be some kind of mistake. It didn't feel like a believable trade. You know, Luka Doncic, undoubtedly one of the 5 best players in the NBA at the moment. You can't really see
And
a
super young, like
25 years old. So, yeah.
So just hitting his prime, basically, in the NBA.
Yeah. And being traded for, okay, an all-star, but who's 31, I think, Anthony Davis. So coming towards the end of his career, also plagued by injuries. So it's not even as if you get guaranteed sort of 82 games out of Anthony Davis. It does address a need for the Mavericks in that they needed another big, but they didn't need another big at the expense of their star player. Seemingly, this all comes down to the fact that the Mavericks had concerns over his fitness and conditioning and how he took care of himself away from the basketball court. And it's true, he's not the most physically impressive specimen, and it seems that he enjoys life away from the court, but it still seems an outrageous decision to make, and also feels like they probably could have got more had they really tried.
I mean, keep in mind, the Dallas Mavericks went to the finals last year with Luka. You know, like, he is hitting the prime of his career. He has been delivering and bring them to conference championships, NBA finals. Like, it's not as if they're not making the playoffs. Like, they are going far. This would be, I mean, for those maybe not familiar, I was trying to think of an NFL equivalent would kind of be like the Bills trading Josh Allen.
No, I think the best NFL equivalent would be Joe Burrow.
No, I think it's bigger than Joe Burrow.
I don't think it, because
Luka's making it far. So, like, Josh Allen is making conference championships, and like, he is the core of that team. And then
but Joe Burrow's made it to a Super Bowl, right? But made it to a Super Bowl when the team wasn't. I think the Bengals Super Bowl run is comparable to the Mavericks NBA championship run, whereas we know they're probably not the best or second best team, but they've managed to make it here, and they have one elite player who's really driving that. And I think it's Joe Burrow.
I just think Burrow's a little too young still. Like, Luka is a 5-time first team All NBA. Like, that's crazy.
The issue would be is the slight conditioning concerns, which is hard to think of an NFL player where you have a sort of off the field element that is a major motivating factor. And it's hard to think of an NFL player who's delivering elite performances, but also has that concern. Most NFL players, it's either be as if Aaron Rodgers were younger and still good. You know, that would be the kind of thing.
That's not a bad one.
I don't know if we want to have him around in, say, the Premier League. I don't know, periods of Wayne Rooney's career, maybe, where there were slight question marks about decisions he was taking or how committed he was to being as fit as he could have been. But it's almost impossible to think of a player who is as good as their sport being actively traded away or transferred away, if you're depending on the sport, by their team. I really
Pennies
can't
on
think,
the 100.
even if it's not for, I just can't think. Even if they've got a great deal for him, the decision to trade him away is surprising.
And I think the fitness issue is one of those things that's so stupid because in this instance, maybe he's not super motivated to be like, I guess you could even say like LeBron when he was in his prime would come out in like crazy good shape and stuff like that. But even with the shape he's in, he's still dominating in the sport and taking his team to the finals. It's not like last year he was in phenomenal shape, and now this year he's coming back being like, I don't want to get in shape anymore. Like, he was in just as bad a shape last year, and the year before, and the year before that, as he was now, and he was still doing great and one of the best players in the NBA. So like, I don't get. It's not as if like now all of a sudden he doesn't want to play anymore. He's playing just as hard as he was.
I do think he suffers slightly from the fact that he's European. I think both he and
Of course,
Jokic,
you would in favor of the Europeans here.
but I think both he and Jokic, neither of whom physically, I mean, let's not get it wrong. Standing next to normal people, they would come across as physical specimens. It's just compared to elite athletes in the NBA. Yeah, they look a little tubby and not that spectacular because they're not super defined from a muscular perspective. But I think they suffer. They're white European players, a little bit dumpy looking. And I think there's a stigma associated with both of them. Like the Nuggets are never trading away Jokic, but that's still why both of them get an element of sort of hate or doubt that LeBron James would never get for the same reasons, or even Giannis would never get for the same reasons, because they don't pass the eye test of what we think an elite athlete should really look like in the modern era. Certainly not what an elite NBA player should look like. And so regardless of what they're able to achieve from a performance or statistical perspective, there's still people going, yeah, but it's still, imagine if he got in shape. It's like, well, I don't know. Maybe he would get hurt more. Maybe he would not be able to use his body in the same way. You know, there's a lot of trade-offs that might come from getting in really good shape in the same way that Anthony Davis, I think, suffered from getting too muscular. His career has kind of hit a roadblock because he went from a sort of skinny 4 to a muscular 5, and he is.
Oh, so you're into the muscular. Goes up a point for you. You went from a 4 to a 5. Not bad.
It's a good joke. Well done.
Thank you.
That reminds me, because I've been rewatching House, just to throw this in there, had a joke that really made me laugh because they were talking about a kid who had a problem with their testicles, and
He's funny already.
the comment was from one of the doctors is he has acute testicle something, and the response was, that's sweet, but what's wrong with him? And something along those lines. And like, it did make me chuckle. So I give you credit for getting in a similar jab. But no, I just think there's the eye test element, and some sports we deal with that better than others. And I think in the modern era, we have an expectation of what professional athletes should look like. And when they don't meet that, regardless of how well they play, we doubt them somewhat. You know, like Ronaldo benefits from being sort of statuesque in appearance, and that it means whenever you doubt him to a little bit, you go, well, but he looks like a god, so he must be good. Whereas even Messi, it's like, well, he's short and he like doesn't look that impressive, so could stop him. You know, there would be there's a little bit of that. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people who watch Luka Doncic play who think to themselves, yeah, but if one-on-one,
Oh yeah, 100%.
there's a lot of failed high school, college basketball players who are sitting there going, yeah, no problem. I would lock him up defensively, and then I would just dunk on him whenever I get the ball. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, good
All
for you.
six of them.
Why aren't the other NBA players doing that then? Like, why has no one else figured this out?
Because it's rigged like the NFL.
But yeah, big trade and surprising. I love it when there's a big trade. I like it in any sport. Like, I actually think nowadays, unfortunately, with the advent of statistics playing such a key part, and also people being so risk averse with most of the decisions that they take, we don't get enough exciting trades. It's sort of refreshing to see a league where someone made the decision to both take a risk and also do something super newsworthy.
Yeah, and I mean, for Luka, it really sucks because he can't now sign his supermax contract, so he's out. Was like 150 million, which seemingly played a part in this.
So there's rumors that he was not going to sign the extension, and that was part of the reason why the Mavericks decided to trade him, because they realized that getting something was better than getting nothing if he were to leave as a free agent at the end of the summer. He denies this in his press conference. He said he never gave the Mavericks any indication that he was not going to re-sign. Who knows who's telling the truth on that front? What I will say is,
someone
yeah,
knows.
okay.
We don't.
Well, yeah. A handful of people know, but we will never know. The 100+ million that he's going to miss out on sucks, but realistically, by going to the Lakers, if he's a superstar for the LA Lakers, that success will offset the loss of income of being a superstar for the Dallas Mavericks. because one of them is cool and nice, and the other is you have the potential to be a real global superstar, an NBA icon, a face of the league by being the best player on the LA Lakers in a way that you cannot be. And we've seen that. Anyone who goes, oh, it's sort of some sort of LA bias. We saw like Dirk Nowitzki was not the face of the NBA, even when he was, a European superstar for the Mavericks and winning an NBA championship. You might be able to, Giannis is not the face of the NBA playing in Milwaukee. Jokic is not the face of the NBA playing for the Nuggets, even though everyone agrees he's the best player in the league. But you might be able to be the face of the league playing for the LA Lakers, one of the most iconic sports teams in the world.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see him and LeBron together, too. Because now who takes the last shot in a game?
They just patty cake back and forth. No one does. They lose every close game.
The correct answer is they're up 10 every game.
That might be it's going to be fun. If you're LeBron, what a win for LeBron. It looked like he was sort of limping towards the end of his career with no realistic chance of an NBA championship and maybe facing the possibility of having to leave the Lakers to, if he wanted to, be kind of relevant from a competitive standpoint again. And also having that coincide when the Cavaliers were becoming really good again, which sort of makes him look bad because you abandoned Cleveland, and now it's easy to have the conversation of, wouldn't LeBron like to be with the Cavs right now? And wouldn't that be cooler than... And now he's playing with one of the best 5 players in the league. And I don't think they are real title contenders still, but it means that maybe, he was also talking of potentially retiring maybe this season, but if not next. I think this extends his career because what you've now given LeBron is the possibility of doing less on a good team. So he says he never wants to be a role player. This isn't being a role player, but this is the chance to go from being the 1 to the 2 or the 3 without it being even remotely embarrassing. Because there's no shame in being the second option on a team that has Luka Doncic, where there would have been a shame of, wait, LeBron's passing up the ball to Austin Reeves. This is the guy who's now the dominant force. So for LeBron, this might extend his career by a couple of seasons, which from a record standpoint could be game changing.
Yeah. All right, Eddie. Po' boys, gumbo, beignets, jambalaya, muffaletta, bananas Foster. What do they all have in common?
New Orleans.
Things Jason Kelsey's going to eat shirtless in the next week.
I need to see less of Jason Kelsey.
Well, that's going to be tough.
It is. I might never see less of him. Can we also discuss, you don't have any siblings, and also I only have a sister. Neither of us, and don't know my sister.
Oh, yeah, I just have a woman as a sibling.
Yeah, barely a human.
Girl.
Barely a human. Trump's America, No more DEI.
She's just a girl.
She doesn't really count as a full person anymore. And also wasn't a professional athlete, so she never put me in this position. Jason Kelsey, and I get it. It's part of his brand. And potentially, I don't know exactly what his ongoing relationship was with the Eagles. He might be some type of salaried employee by the Eagles.
He's probably like an ambassador or something.
Appearances that he makes for different things. So maybe he kind of has to say he's cheering for the Eagles. Maybe. But the fact that he's routinely put on the spot of Eagles or your brother, and he's just Eagles, can we agree that's insane? I don't care that that's your former employee, and that your brother's already won 3 Super Bowls. But the fact that you're not part of the team anymore, a team that you're not local, you're not from Philadelphia.
Yeah, but they lived there.
Still.
You lived there for 15 years.
If we were both NFL players.
Okay. So far, we're super probable.
And I retired first.
Keep going with this extremely probable scenario.
We've both won at least 1 Super Bowl.
Okay. Wait. Are we brothers in this situation?
No, we're not brothers.
Okay, we're not brothers.
Because this is part of our friendship.
We still have the podcast.
Yes.
So we're podcasting while we're playing. Like we're doing like Micah Parsons.
We're doing like the Kelsey brothers.
Okay. Where did we go to school is the question. Is that where we met? Are we like college friends?
Let's go with that.
Okay.
Let's translate our actual life over into professional footballing experiences. So let's just say we met in college.
We met in college. What college?
Does this matter?
It does. It matters for how I'm getting into the persona.
Alabama.
Oof, I would never go to Alabama.
What you did, because you were a
I
five-star
don't like.
recruit, blue chipper.
Yeah, it's Saban though. He's too tough.
He convinced you, and there was a lot of money that got thrown your way.
Okay, now we're talking. Okay.
So we were both at Alabama. We won college championship together too.
Wow,
Became best of
not bad.
pals. Yeah,
Okay, I was definitely strong safety, free safety. What position were you playing?
quarterback.
Everything up to that point was super believable.
I'll say I was a lineman of some sort.
I don't know if you're big enough to be a lineman.
I'm not, but what am I going to say? Tight end? Is that where you
I'll
want me
give
to
you
go?
tight end.
Okay, I was
I don't know
tight
how
end.
good the hands are, but
The hands are elite. Some said the best hands in college football, and then later the best hands in the NFL.
Alabama not known for their tight ends though.
I changed the game.
Okay, I'm surprised you made it to the NFL being an Alabama tight end.
Surprised a lot of people. And then we both went on to successful NFL careers.
Different teams though.
Different teams.
Okay.
We've both won Super Bowls.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So we both won national championships.
Yeah.
We've both won Super Bowls,
Yeah.
and we've got an award-winning podcast.
No, we didn't. The podcast is doing okay. It's not award-winning. It's doing all right.
Wait. We're two players that played for Alabama in a national championship, and we're Super Bowl winners, but our podcast is just mediocre.
The podcast is good.
Listening?
People are listening, but it probably doesn't get the attention that it deserves, but it's doing pretty well.
Okay.
But it's not award-winning.
Let me ask one more question. Where does Sam fit into this equation?
He's like the producer. He's just a...
We don't know him. Not even from college.
No, they don't let Sam into Alabama. No way. So, okay. So we're our age now.
Okay. Are we still in the NFL?
No, you are. I retired last year.
Fuck yeah, I am. I'm in great physical condition. That's why.
You are, yeah. You worked
You let
harder.
yourself go.
I did.
You look at it.
I'm the Luka Doncic of this situation.
Yeah.
You're the LeBron James.
I'll say Ronaldo, but I'll take LeBron.
I retired last year. I'm very happily. I've transitioned into my media career. Things are going well. You're still going. My former team is now playing you in the Super Bowl. I played there my whole career. Let's say I played for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, just Ohio.
Yeah, I played for the Bengals my entire
Draft.
career. Won one Super Bowl, lost in one Super Bowl. Overall, was part of pretty good teams.
What'd you think of Joe Burrow? Were you
He
friends
was-
with Joe?
We're okay. He buys me weird gifts.
Do
I'm
tight
not
ends
so-
count? Do they
Sometimes he
count
gets
as
me.
linemen?
No, but sometimes he throws me in and he gets me a katana, and I'm like, Joe, I don't need a sword. But
Is this why Sam's our producer?
and so I've retired. Now it's Bengals. You play for who do you want to play for? I'll let you choose.
Oh, I would like to play for the Los Angeles Chargers.
I mean, this causes some issues because this puts us both in the AFC, which means
Okay, you
we're
want
now-
me to go NFC?
you kind of got to go to NFC, or else I'm not
Okay.
playing for the Bengals.
Okay. I played for.
Play for. You're still going.
Oh, I'm still going. Put me in the NFC South.
Saints?
Okay,
You'd love
I'll
living
take
in
the
New
Saints.
Orleans.
I don't really love New Orleans, but it's okay. I'll live
Yeah.
on the outskirts of the city. It's a little quieter, good training, a little humid. I don't love the humidity.
This year, it's Bengals and Saints Super Bowl.
Wow. Okay. In New Orleans, we have a fucking huge advantage.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, home territory. And I get asked, hey, do you want your really good friend Frank to win the Super Bowl, or do you want that team that paid you for 12 years to win the Super Bowl? I'm just telling you right now, I would obviously want you to win the Super Bowl.
I appreciate that, but I would disrespect. I would not like that
Why?
because I want you to support the team that you put your life out there for.
Like, I think it would be different if the story were this is someone who I met while playing for the Bengals, or this is someone I've been friends with for 5-6 years. But if your friendship or relationship predated your NFL careers, for you to not be wanting that person to achieve that extra success, even if they've already been there. And like,
I think you can root for the team and root for the player.
No, because who cares? If Travis Kelce has 300 receiving yards in a Chiefs loss, he doesn't really care. He's already a Hall of Famer. He's already won multiple Super Bowls. All he cares about at this stage is winning another Super Bowl, and possibly I'm maybe retiring on a high.
I'm not retiring.
You never would.
I've got like 3 years left.
You're the Jerry Rice of white trunk safeties. You'll be 45 and still be okay.
I'm Adam Archuleta 2.0.
Yeah. But no, I don't get it. So this is a very long-winded way of me saying I don't understand Jason Kelsey saying he's supporting the Eagles, and then I can say I am supporting the Eagles. This is a very tough position for me to be in. I have made any long-term listener of the podcast will know I'm not a big fan of either of these teams. There's parts of both of them that I dislike, and it's a lesser of two evils on this front for me, in that I think the Eagles have been impressive over the second half of the season and can make a case for them being the best team in the NFL. I don't think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. I think the Ravens are the best team in the NFL, and they're watching this game. I don't think the Chiefs have been good enough over the last few years to justify them winning 3 Super Bowls in a row. So that's why I have to support the Eagles.
No, I think that's crazy. To think that the Eagles are the lesser of two evils is insanity. I mean, you can watch any Eagles fan video, and 15 seconds of watching that video will solidify the fact that the Eagles are the more evil.
We'll see. On a completely unrelated note, because it just in the build-up, I've been, again, seeing Jason Kelsey talk about how he's supporting the Eagles. I also watched bits and pieces of the media day yesterday.
So annoying now. I hate when things, wait, real quick before you do this. I hate when things that were once kind of just like something that happened, that occasionally something funny or fun happened from it. Like it just happened to be a secondary effect, or, just coincidentally something fun happened from something. But now it's like media day is there to try and generate funny scenarios and jokes and things. And it's just stupid. Like I hate when things are set up to try and be entertaining.
No, I don't disagree with you. And it's just the downside of the modern era, right? Which is you have the
Avoid everything.
And you desperately, people seeking to recreate viral moments of the past. But what Media Day did get, Andy Reid got asked what his favorite book trilogy was. Did you see this clip?
No. It has to be a trilogy?
Yeah, it's a very bad question. Because you say for me, I don't have a favorite book trilogy because I can't think of that many trilogies that I've really read and enjoyed. It's a very specific.
I mean, the easy answer is Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone knows that's a trilogy and most people have read that. I wouldn't say Harry Potter, but you can't because it's not a trilogy.
His answer was the Bible, the Book of Mormon, and Pearl of Great Price, which also not a trilogy, but I guess 3 kind of like, he just basically picked his 3 favorite books, which I didn't know Andy Reid was Mormon.
Is he?
Yeah, he is. He did go to BYU, which I was unaware of. So he did play football at BYU. But I've gone through this. I've never been aware of the fact that Andy Reid is Mormon. Not that really matters, but just to really piss religious listeners of the podcast off. When you get asked what your favorite book is or favorite trilogy is in this part, it's okay to say, I don't read that much, so I don't really have an answer to that question. To dodge the question by just throwing out religious texts because you think that it both covers up for the fact that you don't read and also comes across as interesting and inspirational. It might pander to the religious crowd out there, but the rest of us know that was just Andy Reid telling us he doesn't read books. And that's fine. I'm not judging him for not reading, but don't think that by saying the Bible, Andy Reid reads. He has to.
How do you know he doesn't read the Bible a lot?
Maybe he does, but rereading the same book over and over again doesn't mean that you're just an extensive reader.
But that means people get away with favorite book to read. Okay, if you ask me what my favorite book to read is, it's the ones I've read the most.
Well, see, for me, I'm not a big rereader, so that wouldn't be the case. But if someone, again, I'm not religious, so it's different, but it's like, oh, Andy Reid reads the Bible every day. And that gets seen as being okay. If I was like, what's Frank reading at the moment? He's just reading.
I'm reading Wool, is what I'm reading.
For the 97th time.
First time.
No, but he's just on it again. Just loves it. Just rereading some of the passages and getting a better understanding of the book. We would think something was wrong with you. But yes, I'm just telling, as a public service announcement for our religious listeners, of whom we probably don't have that many. Saying the Bible as your default answer to favorite book, thing you like reading the most, it doesn't trick us into thinking that you're some, passionate reader.
It's interesting because I heard Arteta say that he loves to read the Bible. It's his favorite book to read.
Wouldn't surprise me.
So I guess before we get into the specifics of the game, we can go through some of the fanfare. You could say some of the Super Bowl preview minus the football. So my first question to you, Eddie, you gave me some heat last year when I got upset about Juszczyk's wife taking the fact that she's Kyle Juszczyk's wife to promote her clothing company. And I don't have that much of an issue with it, but it's annoying because had she not been Kyle Juszczyk's wife and having other famous athletes wear her stuff, she would not be anywhere near she is. I'm sure there are just as many people that were doing similar things. This year, we have a similar situation. And of course, it is also the San Francisco 49ers who are just incestuous. The Tubi is planning to stream the game for free, and it's doing a pregame show with very well-known, popular, and great TV show host and sports commentator Olivia Culpo. You may know her as the wife of Christian McCaffrey.
Well, she's famous in her own right, but yeah, she is also...
As a model. Yes, not as anyone on television.
No, but she is legitimately... There is an argument that she's more famous than Christian McCaffrey.
Model, influencer, and wife of San Francisco 49ers star Christian McCaffrey.
No, I know, but look, do I agree with you? No, because everything...
Let me ask that. Does she get that if she's not Christian McCaffrey's wife?
100%. She's passionate about ball. I follow her
49ers, man. They're evil.
I follow her on Instagram just for her game takes, and I've got to say it's really, really she's made me even more confident going into this Super Bowl about the matchup and why the Eagles might dominate, and I have to thank her for those facts.
She has a reality TV show too, by the way.
I know. Look, she's not my...
It's crazy.
There's a lot of reasons why I should not be that into. I agree with you. Is she the right choice? Probably not. Who's tuning into that?
Better her than Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston, yeah.
Well,
probably. I don't know who is that for becomes the argument because
they're doing a red carpet show. So
I understand. But what I mean is who's tuning. So do you turn that on? You're watching at home and your wife or girlfriend doesn't really want to watch the Super Bowl.
This is how you try and hook them in with this. This is the cast. Throw it out there.
You're a pathetic human being in that case. If you can just say, I want to watch the Super Bowl. It's once a year. Just let me watch the normal broadcast. We don't need to compromise on this one. Then
what if the response is, we've been watching 21 fucking weeks of football from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. every Sunday, followed by Thursday from 6 to 10, Monday from 6 to 10, and sometimes Saturday and Christmas Eve. Then what's the response?
Say, if you've made it through all that, you can make it through one more week. It's not going to kill you. But look, you're right. Either someone knows you're into football and you're watching it, and in which case it is either watch it with me or don't. No judgment if your wife doesn't want to watch the Super Bowl with you. But if you're going to try and pacify your wife or husband, who knows on the dynamic, by having a red carpet experience thrown in on top of the Super Bowl, I think you should just decide this is not an event that you want to share, an experience that you want to share.
So halftime show will be Kendrick Lamar with SZA. Any interest in that?
I mean, I like Kendrick Lamar. There's lots of his songs that I find, reasonably listenable as far as either bar or radio hits go. I'm not going out of my way. I'm not, putting Kendrick Lamar on at home. I don't know if Kendrick Lamar is famous enough for the Super Bowl halftime show. I feel like that should be reserved for absolute superstar status, in that everyone who tunes in kind of knows who you are, should know who you are.
I did just win 5 Grammys.
Doesn't matter.
2 days ago. Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It should be, if you're tuning in and your parents are watching the Super Bowl with you and they say, who is that? They should almost feel embarrassed to not know who that is. As in, if it's Coldplay and you go, I don't know who Coldplay are. It's like, okay, were you living under a rock for the last 20 years? But if someone said, I don't know who Kendrick Lamar is, I would understand why they don't really know. My only answer to that would be, you probably recognize one or two of the songs from like walking around a supermarket or turning the radio on or midway through a sports game at times. But
Yeah. I would say,
100%,
I got loyalty, got royalty inside my DNA. That's what I tell them.
well, now we don't have the rights to play that song. So that's going to cause us all sorts of issues. But
if I don't sing it, I thought it's okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think it will be okay. But you know what I mean? I think this is a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's big enough.
It's like when The Weeknd performed 4 years ago. I like a lot of The Weeknd
4 years
songs.
ago?
Yeah, it was the COVID Super Bowl, right?
Holy shit, it's crazy.
I like The Weeknd. And I actually thought his performance was interesting and stuff. And yeah, he definitely suffered from a somewhat empty stadium. He's not famous enough. Like The Weeknd does not have the star power necessary to justify that type of thing. You need to be a global superstar to really be able to justify. And I would rather, I mean, they've had repeat performances. Just get someone to do it again. You know, whether that's whoever that is. It needs to be, my God, this is. Because part of it needs to be almost an experience to be like tuning in. I'm never going to watch Eminem in concert, but here I get to at least see him perform for a little bit. Where it's like,
they should have had Timothy Chalamet doing Bob Dylan like he did on Saturday Night Live.
I would rather they had Timothy Chalamet doing Kendrick Lamar. Is that an option? How about Timothy Chalamet doing Bob Dylan doing Kendrick Lamar? I'm fine with that like weird combination of a take on a take on a take, but I think he'll enjoy it. The one thing I'll give Kendrick Lamar, the reason why it's a somewhat okay selection is that you do hear Kendrick Lamar songs a lot at sports venues. His 3 or 4 big hits are very heavily played at sports events, and so it kind of fits into the Super Bowl theme. But I'm often obviously in Europe for the Super Bowl, and it means that you have moments where you definitely tell people who are at a bar watch the Super Bowl to see the halftime show. I don't think I would see anyone who's at a bar to see Kendrick Lamar perform the Super Bowl halftime show.
Yeah, there's a lot of bets about how many times he's going to diss Drake. Let me find one for you here. How many diss tracks will Kendrick Lamar sing about Drake? The over-under is 2.5. Will Kendrick Lamar mention Drake? Plus 190, yes. Minus 260, no. Will he perform Not Like Us first? It's 3-1 for yes.
I don't think he'll mention Drake because that would be. I was laughing actually with Peter, who you know, because we were talking. We went for drinks earlier, and we were speaking about the halftime show in the build up to watching it. And I said, "What a wonderful! The only way this gets good is what if Drake and Kendrick Lamar years ago decided to start their feud on the basis that eventually one of them would play the Super Bowl halftime show." And then the other one could come out and perform with them as just like a mind-blowing breaking the internet moment. And that this was just all a con, and what a perfect setup of winning Grammys and playing Not Like Us and getting everyone to sing along. Oh my God, Kendrick Lamar hates Drake. And then literally second song, it's just Drake appearing out of the floor and singing with it.
Wow, that would be pretty impressive. I guess, though, the question, though, would be, Eddie, what team apparel would Drake be wearing on Super Bowl Sunday?
He's
Plus
definitely
130
Chiefs.
Eagles, minus 170 Chiefs.
Oh, and as we know, he backs
Drake
losers.
Curse.
So
yeah, the Drake. That bet is called the Drake curse. So yeah, other news, President Trump will be there. I think it's the first president to ever attend a Super Bowl. Amazing. Commercials. I know you're not a fan of the commercials, and I know you can't really see them most of the time.
Can now.
So you'll be tuning in for the Hellman's Mayo recreation of When Harry Met Sally, featuring Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. Or you might be tuning in for the Haagen-Dazs, Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, and Ludacris, as they do a Fast and the Furious reenactment for Haagen-Dazs. Or the Dunn Kings with Ben Affleck, Casey Affleck, and Jeremy Strong.
Yeah, I'm not that excited. Commercials are not something that gets me through the game.
They're just not as good anymore. That's another thing that's like media day. Like they used to be really good, and occasionally you just have like one really funny one. But now all of them try to be over the top, and most of them just fail, and they're not good.
No, you know what really killed the commercials is the internet. Because I think part of the experience previously of watching it and seeing the commercials was that was your only chance to see them. And now I can
Now they're
just
pre-released.
either pre-released or just in the very least, I can go on the internet and watch all the commercials. Like if this commercial walked away and I didn't see that commercial, but people are talking about it, I can get my phone out and say, Budweiser Super Bowl commercial, and I can see it. Whereas 20, 30 years ago, you were left out of the conversation if you hadn't watched it. And unfortunately, there's nothing you can really do about that fact. But ultimately, I think that's the big issue that they have.
So Taylor Swift will obviously be in attendance. Eddie, will Travis Kelce propose to Taylor Swift after the Super Bowl? 8-1.
No chance.
No chance.
What does after mean? Is it on the field immediately after the game? No.
Must be within 1 hour of game ending. That's literally what it says. How about what do you think the over-under is for number of times Taylor Swift is shown on the broadcast? And I'll say this, it says number of times is shown on camera at the game from opening kickoff to when the clock hits 0 and includes halftime.
I think.
What do you think it's set at?
3.5.
It is 6.5. I think the under on that. They purposely don't show her very much anymore. We've discussed this before. Like the NFL or people have found out that they don't like people get annoyed for some reason.
Part of this is a bet on how many touchdowns does Travis, because when Travis Kelce scores a touchdown, Taylor
or a
Swift
big play,
but certainly Taylor Swift's getting shown. So, for example, if you think Travis Kelce is scoring 2 touchdowns, then it's at least 5-6 times she's getting shown. 6. That seems like a very high number. I agree with you that they have tried. They realize that they overdid it at first, and they are trying to reel it back in a bit.
I might take the under on that one. How about you thought 8-1 for Taylor Swift to get proposed to? What about Taylor Swift to announce pregnancy during or after Super Bowl? Must occur by the end of the day of the Super Bowl. What do you think the odds are on that?
50-1.
16-1. Maybe someone knows something here.
No, they don't know anything.
That seems so
They're
low.
They're just
Come
scared.
on, 16-1? 16-1? That's crazy. So a lot of Taylor Swift bets, I guess, which is another good way. You can have your partner tune into Olivia Culpo before, and then you can have them bet on a bunch of Taylor Swift props, and they can have the whole game to be entertained. And then we also have the most important part, which is the national anthem. And that will be sung by someone who I have no idea who this is.
Really?
John, yeah. Is it John Batiste?
Batiste, yeah. He's like part of the band for the late night show with Stephen Colbert. He's the pianist there, and he's a fairly celebrated musician in his own right, but I think that's where most people will know him from.
I just don't know.
I know. I'm just saying, if you watch late night, he is, in the same way that in Jimmy Fallon has the roots. Jean Baptiste is the band leader for the show with Stephen Colbert.
So he normally plays with multiple instruments. So he's done it with a guitar, piano, rhythm machine. It's currently set at 2 minutes. So 120 seconds. I have gone with the under. There have only been, I think, like 4 times in the past 15 years that it's gone over 2 minutes. So
I'll tell you,
I think 2 is high.
Since 1990, 14 performances have gone over 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's 35 years.
Yeah. Most recently, Chris Stapleton in 2023, 121. Alicia Keys holds the record for the longest Super Bowl anthem at 2 minutes and 36.
The only thing I'm slightly worried about is I can only bet this through one site, because in America, you can't bet on this. So you can't find it. So you have to kind of go searching for it. The anthem they have set is for 120.5 seconds is the over-under. I've gone with the under, which is plus 105. So it's actually the underdog here. But this is where I'm nervous. It is first word spoken to last note, instrument or voice. So he could hit it and just hold a piano key for fucking 20 seconds and I'm screwed. I'm a little nervous. It used to be ending at the first brave, and that was always nice. But the last note is tough. But I guess the good thing is that it's first word, because supposedly he likes to start off with just instrumental for a little bit. So I won't get dinged for that. So I think it'll be close.
He's performed. Usually, you can use some some indicators from previous national anthem performances, he's performed the national anthem a lot.
A lot.
And his
Most
national
times
anthem,
under 2.
most of them, but sometimes significantly over. And most recently, from a national standpoint, he did it for the opening of the NBA season in 2020. And that came in at
147.
147.
I got it, Eddie. Don't worry. I do my research for the national anthem. I don't even know who's playing the game.
But yeah, it's
so I'm trying to keep my streak. It's now been, I think, about 7 years in a row I've gotten the national anthem. So trying to keep it going.
And I think this is fitting because I stand by the fact I think I got you started on the national anthem over under betting. And I think that kicked off the last time the Super Bowl was in New Orleans because it was that.
Was that the blackout?
That was the blackout. And I think that was, we threw a bunch
of
bets in.
not when I blacked out, when the stadium blacked
although
out.
we did. But when the stadium lost lights, and that's when
we blacked out because the stadium blacked out.
Yes,
it wasn't our fault.
No, it was the faulty electrics that were to blame. But I think we definitely kicked things off with a winner on the national anthem bet, which was the first time I kind of got you going on that. And then our big bet was Colin Kaepernick, Super Bowl MVP.
Never forget
it.
Did
not come through because he came up short on that drive. Otherwise, he 100% would have won, and we would have won that bet.
How differently his career and our lives would have been had he done that.
It would have been a different world. But
I think we probably take the money and we move to Alabama and we walk on the football team.
Yes. And then we have that podcast, the Old Lows podcast.
So where do you want to kick off? Pun intended.
I mean, I guess just our main analysis for the game. And actually speaking about that performance for the weekend and that Super Bowl, which was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl, I actually think this matchup is eerily reminiscent of that matchup, which is we can kind of feel like the Chiefs know what they're doing and that the offense is super reliable. But I just think the Eagles are going to put the Chiefs, going to get so much pressure on the Chiefs, and we're just going to have Mahomes constantly scrambling, looking flustered, obviously making some big plays because it's Patrick Mahomes and he will do that, but never looking comfortable at any stage in this game. And I think that's the key. And that's why I feel very confident in my selection that the Eagles will win this game. And I actually think win it by 10 plus points.
That's an insane statement. The fact that you could be very confident in the Eagles beating the Chiefs, who have won the last 2 Super Bowls. I keep mentioning this all season. I've been mentioning this. Patrick Mahomes has been to the Super Bowl. This is his 5th time now in the Super Bowl? Like, you can't discount this guy. It's his 5th in 7 years. It's crazy. He's won 3 out of 4.
What's that? What's that they say whenever you go and sign up with an investment firm or decide to put your money anywhere? Past
I don't know. I don't invest my money. It doesn't make it far.
Past performances are not a predictor of past results, are not a predictor of future performances. That's how I feel about this Kansas City Chiefs team. I'm not
usually they say to me, "Thank you for your deposit to DraftKings. Good luck." That's what my investors say.
This Eagles team, defensively, look, I think you can argue that the strength of the Chiefs team is their defense, and the strength of this Eagles team is their offense, particularly Saquon Barkley, and they almost cancel each other out in that matchup. The Chiefs are very good against the run, but the Eagles still historically over this season have performed well against teams who can stop the run. And as we've discussed on previous episodes, you can't really stop Saquon Barkley. Maybe you can limit the damage in terms of holding him to 3-4 yards a gain on average, but he will burst a 30, 40, 50-yard run. And, he's going to score a touchdown in this game, barring injury. So it's damage limitation in terms of what you do to Saquon Barkley. And that's why I feel like...
Go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, just to chime in on some of those stats. So Kansas City Chiefs 4th in scoring defense. And when you compare them to the last 2 teams the Eagles have played, the Commanders ranked 28th in the league in yards allowed per rush, and the Rams, who let up 205 yards, ranked 23rd in rush, versus the Chiefs, who are 4th in yards allowed per rush and 11th in defense success rate against the rush. So a much better defensive team against the run than both the Commanders and the Rams.
Yeah. And the test will come then, and we kind of felt this way going into the NFC Championship game as well is how much can Jalen Hurts do? And can he offset some of the limitations he might have with the run game? And can this Eagles offensive line hold up against the pressure that this Chiefs team creates? I still think, so you look at Barkley played 6 games against teams that ranked in the top 15 run defenses. He still averaged 88.5 yards in those games. So
Nothing.
yes, it's not amazing, but it's still an above average performance from a running back in the NFL nowadays. So I think that gives me some confidence. And looking at the way the Eagles match up in terms of the types of passing plays that they can make, they have a big play even against pressure and even against, defenses that blitz a lot and try and really get to the quarterback, which the Chief undoubtedly will do. They then have a tendency to have big plays through either A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith. And I think you can count on the fact that a couple times over the course of this game, you're going to have Hurts be able to get a 30, 40-yard reception to one of those receivers. And again, against a Chiefs offense that really struggles to have those big plays, I think that's a big difference maker.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that front. I think one of the prop bets I really like is A.J. Brown. I think his over-under for longest catch is like 23 yards, 24 yards. I think with the way the Chiefs are going to play the Eagles and put a lot up front, you're going to have a lot of single coverage and like cover ones on A.J. Brown. And I think they'll definitely try and drop that deep ball in. Like that's one of the throws they always go to is just that down the sidelines, drop it into A.J. Brown, catch it like on the sideline, toe tap. I can definitely see that. Unsurprisingly, as you going with the Eagles, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I said it all playoffs now. I'm not going to go against Mahomes and Andy Reid. At this point, I think they have to prove me wrong. And so far, I think they've done the job. They've made it to Super Bowl as they would have wanted to. Some of the stats I think that are important for me, Chiefs have not, going into the title game, the AFC title game, had not turned the ball over for 8 games. So they are not a team that turns the ball over very often. They play somewhat safe in the sense that it's a lot of short throws and then yards after the catch. They led the league this year in yards after catch. 58% of their yards were yards after catch. So they like to do a lot of short throws, get people moving in open space, make some nice plays. Xavier Worthy, I think, is going to have a pretty big game. So I think not turning the ball over, kind of playing it safe, I think will be good for them. The other side that I think will be the thing that's always talked about with the Chiefs, and we've said this so many times, is, limit how many times the Chiefs are going to get the ball. This will be a game that can happen because the Philadelphia Eagles rank number 1 in time of possession this season, 32 minutes of possession. So if they can stick to that, you'll have Mahomes on the field less and your defense more rested. Maybe that will be a factor for the Eagles. But for me, I just think Mahomes is the factor. He's been here before. He won't be flustered. He'll know what to do. He won't overdo it. This season, he's been pressured a lot, 36 sacks, most in his career, but he ranks 2nd in the league in success rate when pressured and 4th in EPA when pressured. So he is good under pressure. He knows what to do. And he steps it up in the playoffs. He'll scramble a lot more. He'll run a lot more. He'll do more with his feet, which is, he doesn't really do in the regular season. He kind of saves himself. So, I'd expect Mahomes to have definitely over on his yardage. I think it's like 27 yards. I'd expect way over on that. And I just think you can't discount how clutch and how good he is of a player. And I'll take Mahomes over Jalen Hurts or Mahomes over Barkley, however you want to put that, any day of the week.
Yeah, you make some good points there. I'll counter that. So this Eagles defense ranks 2nd in the league for defensive expected points against for passing plays. So fundamentally the 2nd best pass defense in the league, which is a really great matchup to have against the Chiefs teams that relies almost exclusively on their pass game. I think it's going to force the Chiefs to have to try and move the ball on the ground. They haven't had a 100-yard plus rusher since Hunt in week 9 in that overtime game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they do not move the ball effectively, consistently on the ground. Yes, they can pick up important 3rd downs. Yes, Mahomes can scramble sometimes. We saw it repeatedly against the Bills when he needs to. But in terms of having that be a go-to where they can start to disrupt the flow of the game through their run game, I don't think they have that in them at the moment. And again, I think that's where the Eagles can force the Chiefs to do things that they're not comfortable with in a way that the Chiefs will not be able to do the same against the Eagles. And so, yeah, I feel super confident in this selection. I'll say this.
I feel super confident that you feel super confident. That is a good sign for me.
And this is not coincidence. I'm not trying to lean into this if there's parallels between the two games. I'm going to throw out the Niners' last two Super Bowl appearances because it's hard for me to gauge my confidence going into either of those two games because of the bias that I undoubtedly have. The last time I felt this confident was the Buccaneers against the Chiefs, when I felt like absolutely certain that the Buccaneers were going to go in there and dominate, and they did so. I think the Eagles will win this game.
They win by
10.
one score?
No. It was a blowout.
I know.
I think the Eagles will win this by more than 10 points. I might even go more than 20 points, at least in a bet.
So would you give me Chiefs plus 20 for a burger and a pint?
No, I'm not an idiot. I'm not giving you even money on plus 20 when they're 1-point favorites.
I'll double down my burger and a bet. Because do you remember, I already have one with your terrible SMU bet. Or Boise State, whatever fucking one it was.
And can I tell you the thing I'm really confident about? Super Bowl MVP traditionally almost always goes to a quarterback. Saquon Barkley is 11-4, 3-1 in a lot of places to be Super Bowl MVP. I think that if you're taking the Eagles money line, you may as well take Saquon Barkley MVP.
Yeah, I don't dislike that bet at all.
And don't get me wrong, we say this and then some random quarterback has 2 interceptions with a pick six, or A.J. Brown has 150 receiving yards and the biggest catch of the game, or Jalen Hurts just has a really fantastic performance. But the reality, the bread and butter of this Eagles team is running the ball. If you think of this, their playoff performances so far, who would have been the MVP of every one of their playoff wins so far this postseason, it would have undoubtedly been Saquon Barkley. And what we also see with him, kind of going back to that same point, even if you contain him for extended periods of time, he will burst off with the 60, 70-yard run, and he will pick up a red zone touchdown, which means, if he ends up with 2-3 touchdowns and 120, 130 rushing yards, it's going to take something pretty special from Jalen Hurts for him to be the reason that he's Super Bowl MVP if the Eagles have won.
Yeah, so right now you have, I'm just going to give you in the American odds, Mahomes plus 115, Barkley plus 250, Hurts plus 300, and then it significantly drops off to Kelsey plus 1550, so 15-1, and then A.J. Brown 25-1, Xavier Worthy 28-1, and then the first defensive player is Chris Jones at 60-1.
But if you really want to know why you should be confident in the Eagles, Frank, I have the type of niche statistic that is completely meaningless that you will absolutely love.
I think I might have it. Can I say it and you tell me if it is what it is?
Tell me.
This will be the 9th time in the last 25 years that one team has traveled to the East and one team has traveled to the West for the Super Bowl. The last 8 times it's happened in the past 25 years, the team that travels to the West for the Super Bowl wins the Super Bowl. It is undefeated in the 20.
That's pretty impressive. And I thought for a second,
bad, right?
I thought for a second you were going to say it, but it isn't that. So my statistic is the last 10 times there has been a Super Bowl matchup between one team that had a first round bye and another team that did not. The team that did not have the first round bye is 10-0 against the spread and 9-1 straight up.
But the team that has the one loss has to be the Chiefs.
No, as in, so this year the Chiefs.
No, I know.
No, because the Chiefs.
Because the Chiefs didn't have a bye. The Chiefs had a bye 2 years ago and they won.
Yeah, but the against who?
The Niners.
The Niners had a bye too. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but for example, when the Chiefs lost to the Buccaneers, the Buccaneers didn't have a bye. The Chiefs did have a bye. The Buccaneers won. The last team to win the Super Bowl in that scenario where they had a bye and the other team did not is the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh boy.
So if that's ever an indication in a week where the Pittsburgh Steelers made massive decisions, if ever there's an indication that you should not be betting on the Chiefs, that is it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. So the other one I had, we kind of jumped the gun on the MVP. Here's a prop bet I think you're going to love. Who will the Super Bowl MVP mention first in his on-the-field speech?
I mean, God's going to be the heavy favorite because Mahomes
Minus
has
250. God or Jesus. God or Jesus.
Yeah, Mahomes has always mentioned God first. If you think the Chiefs are winning, Mahomes is probably Super Bowl MVP, in which case he's mentioning God first. I don't know about Barkley. I don't know enough about him. Is he super religious? Yeah. I mean, it's just because it's also the thing is, again, to have this anti-religious rant for the second time in the podcast, but there seems to be this idea that religious voices are being suppressed at the moment, even though
you love this debate. You love this debate.
No, it's true though. Every athlete mentions God constantly, and we hear it all the time. And yet we need to be told that, oh, NBC won't show it, ESPN won't show it, BBC won't show it, Sky won't show it. I literally have to listen every weekend to an athlete thank God before anything else. I have to have them, even in winning or losing, praise the Lord for because we all know God won't stop fires in California or genocide in Gaza or war in Ukraine, but he does really care about who wins on Sunday in this Super Bowl matchup. That's where God is focusing his attention.
Eddie, he doesn't need to worry about those things you mentioned because Trump is taking care of them.
That's true.
He's going to buy Gaza. It's going to be an economic paradise.
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be Atlantic City 2.0. All of his
the Middle
bankrupt
East
casinos.
You're nearly going to set me off on the political rant there, but I will hold back.
I know. I'm trying so hard.
You want me to
You're
go for it?
Very ranty today.
I'll give you a quick Trump rant.
Okay.
I don't actually, you can't blame Trump for anything because Trump is just shotgunning random thoughts that come into his brain. I don't think he puts much thought into them. I don't think he has much meaning behind them. He just has something. And I actually think part of him probably, he walks back to the Oval Office and says, can you believe they let me say that? Can you believe my supporters are defending that? Can you believe all my staff are now having
my ratings are going to be so high on that one.
Yeah.
That's going to be all over the internet.
And I genuinely think that's all he cares about. So you cannot take him seriously. He's dangerous, but you cannot take him seriously. And lots of things that are going on in the Department of Justice or Department of Education and all sorts of things are seriously concerning in terms of what the future of America looks like. But what I'll say this is his point about Gaza and about every once in a while, he touches on some kind of good points within his idiotic rants. Okay, turning Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard, but he's a property guy and all he can think about is making money. So that's how he has to frame his worldview. Yeah, look, there's an argument that Saudi Arabia, the UAE, should probably be taking more of these Gaza refugees and should be picking up more of the slack. I think that's a fair point. If that was the focus of his criticism, then that's okay. And equally, I think if he would really wanted to use it as a sort of way of exposing those people, he could have made the point of, do you know what? If we turned Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East, all of those people from the UAE and Saudi Arabia, they'd be investing in it as much as they're up in arms about the treatment of the population of Palestine. They would be making money on it as soon as they can. They don't care about the people. They just care about their money. I only care about the money, but I don't lie about you. I lie about it. I'm transparent. All I'm here is for the money. But again, he's not smart enough to kind of have that sort of, he's draining the swamp and trying to expose the way the world works, but he's not doing it. He's just, being corrupt and manipulative in his own new ways.
Just building Trump towers in Gaza.
Yeah. Or Canada or Mexico or, wherever it is, he can lie to us and make us think he's making a difference.
So I have a non-sporting, non-political update for you, Eddie. We talked, I think, a few podcast episodes ago about the fact that I was the number one draft pick for the over 35 Tucson League. Well, we had our first game. We had our first game.
Was it a Luka Doncic style scandal and you're out of the league already?
We had our first game. We lost that game 1-0. I had 0 points. By the second period, there were significant chants from the crowd of first round bust and number one bust, and first round loser.
I mean, that's a major downgrade to being chirped for being a first round bust when you were the number one overall pick.
Yeah, it was number one bust and first round letdown were the two chants being said by the second period. And let me tell you, it got to my head.
That's that's not surprising. Mental midget, but it's
We were rained out of game 2, so I didn't have a chance to redeem myself. Unfortunately, we'll miss game 3 because I'll be in California still.
what a draft pick. What a
What a
draft.
draft.
What a way to ruin a franchise.
After the first loss, I'm out. I'm holding out for more money.
In also non-sporting events, we briefly discussed American Primeval, and also having mentioned that Andy Reid is Mormon, we briefly discussed American Primeval. Oh, I started it. I finished it.
Wow. I'm still on the first. We just finished the first episode still.
I mean, it's only 6 episodes.
I knew you'd like it.
I'll give it A minus.
But you crushed it.
I watched it in a week.
That's
watched
pretty
basically
good. Those are hour episodes.
45 minutes. Yeah, I watched an episode a night basically for 6 nights. Well, I think I had one day where I watched 2 episodes, and then
one day I watched 4. Yeah, we get it.
It's good. I think it's really interesting in the sense that it covers a period in history that is not particularly well known, the Mormon Wars and that whole battle for the West between Brigham Young and the Mormon Church and the U.S. and obviously...
I would think 90% of the people would think this is not real.
Yeah. And obviously it's, based on a true story. There's parts of it that are real. The massacre is real and, but it's sort of piecing together different historical figures and different things. Not a great look for the Mormon Church. I think they cannot be happy about how they come out of this looking. I've got to say, from a no religion really likes being tarnished in any way in popular culture, but the Mormon Church in particular is not pleased about that. One thing that does confuse me over the course of the show is the geography.
Spoilers.
It's not a spoiler. It's the geography. They go from periods where they're supposed to be in sort of western, sort of Montana or wherever it is, to are they all of a sudden in southern Utah? And then people are kind of getting back and forth between those two places pretty quickly. And then people are traveling, and at one moment they're in what appears to be the plains, and then the next minute they're in what I guess are the Wasatch Mountains, and it's snowy, and then they're in the desert and stuff. I mean, it's geographically difficult to follow. And as someone who is reasonably familiar with part of the world that it's certainly supposed to be in, I was left tremendously confused because you kind of cut scene from one to another. And I go, I think they're about 9 days apart based on traveling by horse now. I don't quite understand what's happened. But aside from that, I did enjoy it.
Did it feel very Friday Night Lightsy to you?
Yes. There's a lot of
handhelds. It's handheld.
It's handhelds, but also there's obviously the Taylor Kitsch element kind of makes it feel Friday Night Lights. Also the music, you'll kind of cut to a person sort of staring, and then it's a little doom, doomed, kind of that little like a bass just sort of playing a couple things. It's sort of Friday, and yeah, obviously it's Peter Berg, but it did feel very Friday Night Lights.
He is very notable in the way he does his stuff between and it's not even because we were watching the first episode and I said the same thing. I was like, man, this is literally like Friday Night Lights with Mormons and scalpings. But it's not only the handheld, it's like the handheld in weird angles. Like he's got a handheld camera and it's like the guy with the camera is like on the ground shooting up at an angle. It's like these weird. And then the music is what really kicks it off because it's that same kind of music you get from Friday Night Lights. It's really fun.
100%. Which also feels out of character for what the rest of the setting of the TV show is at times. But the other thing that bothered me slightly during the massacre just felt like there were way too many arrows flying. That was just, they were being bombarded by arrows in a way of there's 1,000 archers firing in at them. I mean, there's arrows coming in from all angles every second. That felt a little strange. I'll give one other. This is a semi-spoiler, but I will give away no details that really make it a spoiler. At the end of the show, so I think at the end of the show, they're supposed to be in southern Utah. Maybe, it's unclear. Maybe they're in more northern, like around Salt Lake. Anyway, they're somewhere in the Utah area. A couple of the characters at the very end say, we'll just keep going to California. They say that as if, we'll just walk over there now. You've got to pass through desert, massive amounts of uninhabited, just landscape that do not support human life. They have no supplies. They're dead. There's just, I mean, if they keep going, they're dead within 48 hours. The way they treat it, it's supposed to sort of end on a high, as if they're riding off into the sunset to life is going to be better. If the show kept going for an extra, 20 minutes of the episode, it's just them dying of thirst in a desert in Nevada.
Yeah, I'll have to finish once I get back from my conference. I'll start watching again. It's a little too good of a show to watch, like, to kill time. So I've been watching Night Agent to kill time on Netflix, season 2 of Night Agent. Season 1 was kind of goofy. Season 2 is even more goofy. It's like it's entertaining, but it is not high quality. I'll say that. And then obviously Severance. So I don't know. We didn't talk about the latest episode of Severance with the Nurturables. What is it? Nurturables Mammalian.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah. So spoilers alert for episode 3 of Severance. I guess we should say now. This will be the last thing we'll probably talk about. I'll say I didn't love that part. I liked the show because it's kind of strange, but because it was also just well done and like intelligent. I don't like now that they're kind of leaning into it being a puzzle box show. And this is coming from someone who loves puzzle box shows. Like Lost is my all-time favorite fucking show. Dark, I love Dark. I do enjoy those types of shows, but this wasn't what this show fully was. It was a really good show, and in the back was like a puzzle box thing where like it wasn't the main thing, but if you want to get into it, you could. But now it's like they're forcing it, that you're almost forced to get into. What is that? What is this? What are they talking about? What's that word? What's that imaginary place they're going to? What's that project they're talking about? I don't love that of it, but I think the ending of the episode made me feel that they're back on track.
I think Lost is an interesting comparison because what I fear, and yeah, I loved season 1. What I fear a little bit is that they got all the praise for being smart and a little cryptic, and that they've made the same mistake that Lost made at a certain point, which is the more cryptic we are, it doesn't matter if even we know what it means, but as long as we're cryptic, it's smart. And so as long as we can confuse people, it's intelligent. It's sort of, and to the extent I don't know if necessarily they know what the meanings, it's almost as if, and when I studied English literature for a while, this was one of the interesting things we would always discuss of,
what a fucking drop that was.
Sometimes.
When I was studying 14th century French physiology.
Sometimes I think that writers are either intentionally vague or make a lot of references, not knowing exactly what the meaning is, but knowing that the audience will attribute meanings to things that they cannot formulate. And
for sure.
You see it in literature, you see it in TV shows and movies a lot more. And I think with Severance, to a certain degree, we're kind of seeing that now, where it's like they don't totally know, and some of the things won't matter, but they're just throwing enough mud at the wall, and enough of it's going to stick where you go, oh, that's a callback to episode 2 where that happened. And there's going to be a lot of stuff of that was weird, and it turns out that didn't matter. And that worries me a bit with it.
Yeah. And they're definitely building on it. They're like making more weird things into it to make it more of the, what about those 14 things in season 2 that didn't matter? Because in this episode too, there were some like really, really good scenes. The scene where the one guy meets with his Audi's wife, I thought that was really well done. Like that was a really good scene. Just the interactions and the communication between them without even speaking was like really well done. The ending I thought was really cool about Mark, let's say deintegrating. What's it called? Whatever, he's reintegrating. Yeah, now that he's going to be reintegrated, just thinking about how cool that's going to be from the standpoint of the things his innie knows that his Audi doesn't, but then also the things that his Audi knows that his innie about, like his coworker, PD, who died, like inner Mark doesn't know that, but now he's going to know, and all this stuff. Like that's really cool thinking about it. And I think it's a really cool concept. So there was a lot of good stuff, but the whole goat scene was just it was 5 minutes too long.
Yeah. It was just weirdness for the sake of weirdness to me.
Yeah.
And I think I also struggle with, it just doesn't make the company make any sense. I struggle with what is the company supposed to be, and I get it. There's lots of people speculating there's clones, and this is what their project is. At a certain moment, does the office building defy the laws of physics? Does nothing make sense within the underground? There's a moment of this is kind of a real world, right, where they just develop this new technology that allows you to have this severed brain. But now you're making it, and okay, it has this weird mixture of 60s, 70s technology with modern technology, TVs and computers that
90s.
look weird. Yeah. Well, yeah, but even some of the stuff even feels older than that in terms of how it looks. The screens look retro even for the 90s and 90s, but combining that but then they're getting out iPhones. It's this weird world that I don't quite understand, and that's compounded by the fact that the makeup of the underground structure of this building now makes no sense. I don't know. Maybe it's not supposed to. I just fear that sometimes, as I said, it's people who don't know what it's supposed to do, and they realize that vagueness is better than simple explanation.
Yeah, we'll see. New episode is going to drop Friday, so I'm interested. What I've read and heard is that this is the episode. So episode 4, season 2 was like the episode that makes this season. So we'll see. It makes sense. I mean, it could be pretty trippy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll find out next episode of viewing terms and next episode in a podcast discussion terms.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think that's about it.
All right. So we'll call it a day. Talk to you later.
See ya.
Cheers.